Welcome to my show and my channel. I'm Elizabeth Liz Muschett, and today is the full moon forecast for Libra of 2025. And my guest, colleague, and friend, Justin Crockett Elzie, is joining me today. Hi, welcome.
Hey Liz, excited to talk about the full moon.
Absolutely. Here we go. So to get a hold of Justin, his website's justincrocketelzie.com and his email is justin.elzie@gmail. And my website is alightpath.com or liz@alightpath.com for an email. So today is the Libra, well, actually it's tomorrow, the Libra full moon, but we're doing the full moon forecast the day before. Libra is a cardinal sign, and it's also an air sign, which is about communication and intellectualism. And cardinal initiates. It's ruled by Venus. And a full moon is culmination and preparing to move forward and release and let go. Libra is about harmony and balance, and Aries is the sun, is about adventure.
Can I add something
So,
to that?
oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I was also going to say that Libra is also a sign of relationship. So there's a big relationship. It's an air sign that relates to relationship, and so that's kind of
That's a
a
big, important part.
keyword to add in there, right?
Absolutely. So we're going to call this the budding moon, even though I know that there's different names for this moon. On April 12th at 5:22 p.m. Pacific Standard or Daylight Time, and that would be 8:22 p.m. on Eastern Daylight Time, and the moon is at 23 degrees of Libra in 19 minutes, and the sun is at 23 degrees Aries in 19 minutes, and this chart is for Seattle, Washington.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Justin.
And so we always take just a quick snapshot at the lunar mansions or Nakshatras that the sun and moon are in. And so the sun, Surya here, is in the Nakshatra of Ravati, and it's in the fourth pada, which is the fourth padas are always ruled by a water sign. And so the Navamsa for this is Pisces. And so we're talking about the energy here of the sun and how it relates here. And the ruling deity for this nakshatra, which is the sun is in, is Pushan, which is a nourishing form of the sun god. And Pushan was a protector of children, animals, and travelers. So it has a very nurturing energy to it. Symbol, of course, is a pair of fish. And because it is about nurturing, the basis above and below is cows and calves. And it's visionary. And the ruling planet is Mercury.
Very interesting. You ready to go to the next slide?
Sure, sure. And then the moon, which is Chandra, is the new lunar mansion or nakshatra that's in is Chitra. And it's in the second pada, which is always an earth sign. So the Navamsa for this one is Virgo. And the key word here is discipline. And the ruling planet is Mars. And the ruling deity is Vishva. I just said Vishvakarma. And this was the celestial architect. This was the deity who built the spaceships for the gods. So there's an archetype of an architect here or building, and it's an earth sign, which is Virgo. And but the basis above below is law and truth. So this is very structured. Ruling planet is Mars, so there's a thing here about building and nourishment here between these two lunar mansions for this full moon.
Thank you, Justin, for that. That's good information. So looking at this chart, the ascendant is at 25 Virgo, circled in orange, and the ruling planet is Mercury over there on the right side with the orange arrow. And then the midheaven is 25 Gemini, which has a green circle around it, and its ruling planet is Mercury, also over there in Pisces, so we have a green arrow pointing to Mercury. The sun is in Aries with the blue circle, and the ruling planet is Mars with the blue arrow, and then the moon is at 23 Libra with a purple circle, and Venus is ruling the ruling planet of the moon in this chart. Do you want to add anything?
No, I think you got that covered.
So how about telling us about the Sabian symbols?
Well, so the Sabian symbols come from us from spiritualist medium Elzie Wheeler, and she channeled these in 1925 with Mark Edmund Jones, the astrologer and writer. Uh, and of course, Mr. Mark Jones believed that Elzie was tapping into the ancient mind matrix. And so these are really important to look at because they give us some sense of the archetypal images that are giving us an energy of what the sun and moon and ascendant and midheaven are telling us in this particular full moon.
Thank you for that. So we're going to start with the Ascendant 25 Virgo, and we cover 3 degrees, and we do the one before the leading up, which will be Virgo 24, Mary and her little lamb. The need to keep a vibrant and pure simplicity at the core of one's being as one meets the many tests of existence, and the key phrase is innocence.
And then Virgo 25 degrees is a flag at half mast in front of a public building. And it's the social acknowledgement of a job well done and destiny fulfilled. And so there's a key phrase here is public recognition.
And then what's next is Virgo 26. A boy with a censer serves the priest near the altar. And the keynote is first stage of actual participation in the great ritual of planetary evolution. And the key phrase is practice in the presence of God. Do you want to sum these up?
Well, for me, I'm just curious what you think. For me, of course, Virgo is about service. And we have, we got the boy being of service here, practicing in the presence of a God. And of course, service comes with some need for public recognition a little bit. And then, of course, encountering is, and again, the ascendant is about how we're moving forward into this full moon. So there's a little bit of keeping that innocence and presence and service to others that I think that comes through here. What about you?
Well, I like how you summed it up, and I'm just going to leave it at that and go on to the next one.
Okay.
So we have the midheaven at 25 Gemini, and I'll let you start, Justin.
Sure. So we look at Gemini 24, what's leading into it here. Children skating over a frozen village pond. And the keynote here is the use of inhibiting circumstances for the development of character and a transcendent approach to the environment. And so it's triumph over entropy.
And then the degree that it's at, Gemini 25, a gardener trimming large palm trees, bringing under control nature's power of expansion. And the key phrase is pruning.
And then Gemini 26 is frost covered trees against winter skies. And the keynote here is the revelation of archetypal form and an essential rhythm of existence. And the key phrase here is essentialization.
That's interesting, all these. It's like, pruning. To me, I think of pruning as letting go of what we don't need. And triumph, it's like we have to, it's effort, takes effort. And then essentialization, it's essential. Do you want to say
Yeah.
anything more?
No, I think you got it covered.
Okay, and then for the sun at 23 degrees Aries, leading up to it, we had Aries 22, the gate to the garden of all fulfilled desires. The keynote is abundance made possible by human togetherness and cooperation. And the key phrase is cosmic optimism.
And then Aries 23, a pregnant woman in a light summer dress. And the keynote here is Fecundity, I believe is how we say that. I can't speak tonight. And anyway, the key phrase here is inner fulfillment.
And then what's next is Aries 24, blown inward by the wind. The curtains of an open window take the shape of a cornucopia. And the keynote is openness to the influx of spiritual energies And the key phrase is molded by transpersonal forces. How would you sum these degrees up?
Well, it's interesting. The thing here, we're dealing a lot with mind here because we're talking about a person being molded by transpersonal forces, the influx of spiritual energies, their mind, and then of course the cosmic optimism. And then of course there's the thing about fulfillment. So I think a lot of what we're seeing here with this, the sun is talking about paying attention to our desires and what we're thinking about as far as our desires.
Well, and I
What do
like
you
how it
think?
talks about cooperation and human togetherness. It's like, we can do so much more together than just by ourselves. So I like that.
Right. Yeah.
And then for the 23-degree Libra moon, I'll let you start.
Yeah, the Libra 22 degrees energy coming in as a child giving birds a drink at a fountain. The concern of simple souls for the welfare and happiness of less evolved beings who thirst for life's renewal. And so we have solicitude is the key phrase or word.
And then the next degree, or the degree that it's at, is Libra 23. The chanticleer's voice heralds sunrise. The keynote is a creative and joyous response to life's processes. And the key phrase is response to life's renewal.
And then what we're leading to here is Libra 24, which is a butterfly with a third wing on its left side, which sounds kind of unusual. Keynote here is the ability to develop for inner strengthening new modes of response to basic life situations. Original mutation.
So how would you sum this one up?
Well, I think again, this is how we are responding to life, right? The response to life renewals, response with um, a new way of looking at things here, original mutation. And I think this moon is helping us um, to think outside the box and to just confront situations and people with compassion and think outside the box positively.
Right, and there's new things happening and new beginnings.
Yep.
So here's the chart for the full moon again. And then here's the chart with the aspects to the moon. So do you want to pick an aspect and start, Justin?
Sure. I'm going to start first with, let's go with the trine, the Jupiter Moon trine. I really like how this is air sign trine here. Jupiter, of course, in Gemini is expanding or inflating the communications right now, the thinking, and it's trining that moon. So there's a really emotional connection right now to a lot of our communications in the collective. And I think this is a good time to really focus on communications in your relationships. Moon in Libra and the Jupiter in Gemini there.
That's good. I like that. Okay, so I'm going to go with first the conjunction of Chiron conjunct the Sun and Eris, because they're very, very close. So this full moon has the Sun has a couple of planets of companions, as what I would call it. And Chiron is, as we know, is the wounded healer. Sun can be our ego nature, and Eris is the goddess of discord. But I believe that she wanted fairness. So she has a kind of a bad reputation, but that's joining that full moon. And then, do you want to pick another one?
Well, and then I would just go right on that T square there. The Mars comes into play. So we got this. It's all about communications there, communications and our emotions involved in it, right? And so with that Mars squaring the Moon, um, Cancer and Libra there. It's just it's to me it's talking about paying attention to how we're emotionally rationalizing things in our relationships. Really kind of pay attention to that. And we may have to actually adjust some of our emotions, or really kind of reflect back in at how we're emotionally dealing with some people right now.
I like that. Okay, I'm gonna go to the quincunx finger of God. So we
I
have
knew you were going to do that
Uranus
one.
quincunx to the moon, and then we have this other conjunction in Pisces of Venus, Saturn, uh, the descendant, the part of fortune, the North Node, and Mercury. Now, if you're located somewhere else, the part of fortune and um, the descendant can be at a different degree, totally. So, but more tightly is the Venus, Saturn, but I would say loosely the North Node and Mercury are giving it a little bit of influence, and that's all in Pisces. And so Uranus and Saturn, Venus are in sextile, but they're both quincunx, the moon, all those planets. So they're pointing to that moon, pushing that focus to the moon. So the moon is the focal point, and quincunxes don't have anything in common. So I always feel like it's a big energy, and Saturn likes to have structure and rules, and Uranus likes to break all the rules. So I'm just going to say that that our emotions could be strong. A lot of different emotions could be coming up. And so be patient with yourself and be patient with others. Do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, one of the things that I run into a lot with clients, and I'm not sure if you do as well, but people who have a Venus Saturn conjunction in their chart. And I think this is interesting here that this Venus Saturn is a part of this finger of God, because to me, when the Venus Saturn conjunction, Venus represents our desires and affections, but then Saturn brings in some limitations to what we desire and affections, or informing us what our limitations are there, or boundaries. And so I think when we combine that with desires and limitations, and our limitations at this particular time, with the change that Uranus is bringing in, and of course the moon is saying, hey, let's just keep it all balanced and harmonious. It's almost like we're teeter-tottering here with this energy between change and what we desire, and our limitations that kind of come into play there.
Yes, I would agree. Anything else you want to say about this chart, or we can move on to the next one?
No, I say let's move on.
So, some other aspects that we have going on in this full moon chart is a mystic rectangle. And a mystic rectangle is made up of two oppositions, two trines, and two sextiles that all interconnect. So, the south node is trine Uranus. Uranus is sextile Saturn. Saturn is trine Juno, and Juno is sextile the south node. And then the nodes are opposite each other, but it's opposite. The south node is opposite Saturn, and then that Uranus is opposite Juno. So there can be gifts in a mystic rectangle, but there's oftentimes work and adjustments that have to happen first. It's like the opposition, it's like an observation, and then you can flow with the flowing energy. Would you like to say anything, Justin?
Well, I know you're the expert on triangles, so I'm not going to say on rectangles here. I'm not going to say anything there. I just will point out something that really jumps out to me about this mystic rectangle is that Uranus Juno opposition. Um, and again, back to relationships, because Juno is that relationship, but then Uranus is about um, change there. And I think this is again informing us about. Um, Changes in our relationships, and just being aware of um, emotions there, because that we see that's at 0 degree of Sag. So there's a little bit of a Scorpio energy with that. Um, so I think it's informing us about changes in our relationships in general right now.
Right, and they just might need, like a plant, it needs nutrition, it needs water, like a relationship could need a little time or um, effort put into, like, going out for a dinner or a date or whatever it might need. So there could be some attention to relationships that are required at this time.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a grand trine. Would you like to speak to that?
Well, again, we bring in the Juno and Mars there. So again, I think again we're talking about relationships, and again, I was just going to say that Juno at first degree in Sagittarius is really about expansion or searching new relationships. I think this is a good indicator of new relationships at this particular period of time of searching for new relationships. And as a collective, and again it's the water that comes in, so again it's Mars is informing us about how we are emotionally dealing with our relationships, and being careful not to emotionally rationalize certain things, and pay attention to any limitations. This is interesting because it brings in all that Pisces again that we've been talking about.
Well, and I want to remind you that Juno is retrograde, so there could be some inner reflection going on within ourselves about um, what we want in relationships, and that can be just friends or groups or more committed relationships. And so it's like a time to review for yourself and, like, if I want a certain thing in a relationship, well, am I being what I want? Because if I'm not being what I want, how are we going to manifest having what we want?
Right.
So it's like if you want integrity, it's like, well, I think you have to, like, judge or weigh yourself. Am I in integrity first? And that's where you start.
Right. And you know another thing too you could take on this is that this could be like you're saying that retrograde. This could be where we're evaluating our emotions and our affections and versus our limitations in our relationships, because sometimes we're in a relationship and it just has limitations. We just maybe we're not getting the affections that we need out of a relationship, and so that Juno is going backwards. It's retrograding and it's evaluating our relationships. And this it could be a time where we evaluate our love and emotions in relationships, and saying it's time to expand some new relationships here because we've got some emotional limitations here.
Well, and Venus has been retrograde, but later on the 12th, it'll station direct. So it's at the end of its retrograde period. And so, Venus is about relationships and what we desire too. So there's been a lot of inner reflection going on there too. So,
Mm-hmm.
okay. So we have a mini grand trine or talent trine and a point of Thales. Which would you like to start with?
I'll start with a point of Thales, which is about completion of a cycle. So I always like to start with that. The opposition, and we go to the south node there, back up to Uranus, and then the sextile right back down to Saturn and Venus there. And I think again this brings in the finger of God energy here a little bit. It's not the moon, but it's a south node, but it's talking again about that energy between um, that sextile primarily between Uranus and Saturn, and again change and limitations.
Right, forming different triangles. We had the finger of God as one triangle, and then the point of Thales is another triangle, and then we had the grand trine as another triangle. So, yes, the
Yeah.
opposition is the awareness, and then the trine is, working on it, and then the sextile is completing it, I always think.
Yep, I agree.
And then we have a mini grand trine or talent trine, with Mars sextile to the south node and Uranus, and then Uranus is trine to the south node. So that Mars Uranus sextile is very interesting. It's like Uranus wants change, and Mars, is very energetic and often works on impulse instead of forethought. Um, but Mars is in a sign that is in fall, so doesn't particularly like being in Cancer, a water sign. And so, it'll be interesting. I think, from the South Node point, that it's like, kind of looking at how things have gone in the past and how, by having that knowledge, how can I move forward and make changes in my life?
And can I say one thing about that Mars aspect with the Uranus? Um, so in my experience, the Mars, anytime Mars aspects Uranus, it can have a reactionary or risk aspect to it. Like, gotta make change now. So this could be a time when people might want to think about not making rash decisions with the Mars sextiling Uranus, but good time, like you said, good time to make changes, but watch taking risks with that. But maybe taking them a little bit more methodically there.
Well, I like that. And we have another aspect here of Vesta and Scorpio square Pallas, Athena, and Aquarius. Would you like to speak to that?
I'll let you go first on this one.
Well, they're both asteroid goddesses, and Vesta is home and hearth. It's like it could be our city center, our town center, and Pallas Athena is, using wisdom, but they're, in a square. There's like, okay, what they're in a like an adjustment needs to take place, or we need to make an adjustment. So, is it making an adjustment in our home? Is it making an adjustment in our community? But use strategy and wisdom with that. What would you say?
I agree, and I would also add into it just look at patterns in our communications and group structure there, because Pallas is in Aquarius, but we may have to forgive sometimes. We may have to work through some difficult emotions because Vesta is in Scorpio. Um, so this could be where we actually have to adjust some of our communications in a group structure and look at love as a principle towards forgiveness with certain things.
Oh, I like that. And will you read the quote?
Sure. So this quote is really kind of what I was thinking, this with the Nakshatras and the Sabian symbols and everything, that instead of comparing our life to others, focus on building up our resources and focus on building up resources that we need to elevate and nurture ourselves. I cannot talk tonight. So this is really a nurturing, building moon towards our relationships and balance. What do you think?
Oh, I like that quote that you picked out, and thanks for picking it out. I appreciate that. So, I'm going to talk briefly about the lunar phase family or gestation cycle, using the 4 lunar phases: new, first quarter, full, and last quarter. And it takes 9 months to complete each phase, unlike how in a month we can complete each phase, but this breaks it down into 9 month cycles. And so new is about beginning, first quarter is adjustments, full phase is realization of goal, third quarter is reevaluate and continue or finish. So the lunar phase family that began on October 13th of 2023 was a solar eclipse at 21 degrees Libra and 7 minutes. So this full moon is within 2 degrees of that. So if you keep a journal, or you can remember back to around that time of any echo of what you started then or what was going on then, of how it might be applied to the full moon phase. So the first quarter was July 13th of 2024 at 22 degrees Libra, and April 12th, we're at the full moon phase of 23 degrees Libra and 19 minutes. And then the third quarter phase will be in January, on January 10th in 2026 at 20 degrees Libra. And I can speak for myself that I was, beginning to do a lot of changes around that eclipse period time of the new moon. And I continue, and I've realized a lot of my goals and aspirations, and I continue to work on them. Can you relate to anything in your life, Justin?
Uh, not off the bat. No, you're much better at that than I am on that. But I love that. I think that's so important, and I think I'm just was kind of making a middle note that about the January 10th one this coming year to kind of remember where we're at right now with this full moon.
Right, right. So the yearly lunar phase, the Libra new moon, was also a solar eclipse on October 2nd of 2024. Now it was in an earlier degree at 10 degrees Libra. And then we're at the full moon phase of release or realize our goals. So I can't really think of anything back in October, but I'm sure there was something if I would have thought about it longer, but the other one came to me pretty quickly. Do you want to share anything about that for yourself?
No, not particularly. No.
Okay. So, how would you sum up this full moon for people?
Well, Libra's about relationships, right? And I think this full moon is giving us a chance because it's opposite that Aries sun is giving us a chance to again evaluate relationships right now, really pay attention to the emotions within our relationships and work through some difficult emotions if we need to, but also we should give us ourselves space to reach out and develop new relationships right now, I would say.
Well, I like that advice. And I would say, be kind to yourself, be gentle with yourself, and be, kind with other people and patient with yourself and others, because that's really important.
Yeah.
So, Justin and I both do consultations, have newsletters, and YouTube channels. So, we appreciate you subscribing. And other shows with Justin that I do is the astrology forecast each month. And from time to time, we do the Chiron asteroid series. There's still a couple shows on the 2025 astrological highlights. A new show coming up is Cosmic Connections with Relationship Astrology and Magical Astrology. And the Astrology Star Sisters, we do Chinese astrology, decans using astrology and tarot, dwarf planets, fixed stars, planet stationing, Uranian astrology, and Venus star point. Oh, and I have another show coming up soon. I think it's at the end of the month with midpoints. Justin and I will be on Talk Cosmos on April 27th at 1 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, talking about the Taurus new moon. Imagine the future. You can watch it live here. Go ahead, Justin.
And this is my slide. Good. I just ask people to go check out my videos on my YouTube channel, and you can find me on YouTube under Astrological Yogi.
Thank you. And to email Justin, it's justin.elzie@gmail.com. And my email is liz@alightpath. And I want to thank all of you that joined us live tonight and all of you that come back and watch at a future time. Thanks for joining us, and we appreciate your support. And we're going to say goodbye for now and see you next time. Bye.
Bye, Liz.